Hello, and welcome to Woodworking in Progress. You know, sometimes when you're at your desk, having your magazine or laptop elevated and tilted is a real big advantage. And that's what this project is about, a laptop stand. Now, I was contacted by a client who wanted one for his home office. And first I said, well, why don't you draw me a picture of what you're thinking about, and then I can work from that. So this is what I got. Now, this wasn't perhaps the most helpful from a project standpoint or a woodworking standpoint. It did give me great insight into his mind. So after some more discussion, I decided I'd build a prototype, which is what this is. So pretty simple, slats, some sides. And after I showed pictures of this to the client, he agreed this probably looks more useful. Anyway, we agreed on the design, and let me show you how I made the project. The first thing was to plane the wood. 2 pieces at 3/4 and the other 2 at 1/2 inch thick. Then I ripped a strip off the 3/4. That's going to be a retaining bar to stop things from sliding off. Then I glued the 3/4 pieces together and cut them to length that I needed for the legs. The last preparatory step was to cut the 1/2 inch wood to the length I need for the slats. Next, I went to the whiteboard and I did my layout for the legs. So this is where the groove's going to be, where the spacers, and where do I need to start to get things correctly laid out. So now I took the information from the diagram on the whiteboard and I've transferred it to my first piece. What I've done is I marked the center and then the offset where I need, so I know where to make the first cut, the first kind of slot with the router bit. So put it against the router bit and set up the fence. So now I can pass this and I'll make the first groove. Thing is, I need to make, of course, 8 grooves and for 4 sets. So I'm going to spin the piece after I make each cut. So there's one, make the second. That way the cuts are nice and symmetrical. But after each set, I need to move the bit relative to the piece to make the next one. I want like a 1/2 inch kind of tooth. Now there's 2 ways of doing that. I could make all the marks here and then move the fence, line it up, and go again. That's a lot of kind of futzing around and chances for errors. Now instead what I'm going to do is use a set of spacers and keep the fence static. So I'll make the first 2 like that. Then I've got a piece that's a 1/2 inch thick spacer. I'll put that against the fence. That moves it over for the tooth. And then I have a 3/4 inch thick piece. I'll put that against this. And that will make the alignment for the router bit. Cut 1, 2, and I'm good to go. To make the second set, I need twice the thickness. So I made a 1 inch piece and a 1.5 inch piece. Do that set, and then I add these back for the final set. So that'll get the spacing correct. To keep I'm going to do both boards at the same time. So I've got to align them, and to help push and keep them straight up and down, I made this little sled. So the boards are going to go like this. This edge will go nicely against the fence and keep it straight. And the final thing is, when I did a prototype, I found that there was the chance of chipping the piece as the router bit exited. So to reduce that, I'm going to use some scrap. These are called backer boards. So I take my 2 pieces, and I'll put one on each side because I'm flipping them around. I'm going to clamp this together, put this against my sled, and then do my routing. And that's how that's going to work. So here's what the legs look like after all that routing. Not too bad. Next, I beveled the bottoms using a jig on my table saw. And lastly, for the legs, I cut an arch. Just makes things look a little bit nicer, I think. Final step was to rip the 1/2-inch boards into the slats for the surface. All right, so I'm ready to do the final assembly. And I've got things set up. I've got the 2 sides set up here. And I've got a couple spacers between them, the pine here. That's to keep things nice and even, the spacing that I need. I calculated that. So, calculated it so that there'd be an inch overhang. Of the slats. And then I set up this couple scraps here so that I could make a positive stop. So I put the slat in, down, and then push it over so it touches this. Now I know that it's 1/2 inch on both sides. And glue there. So it takes a little while to get the rhythm of this and the glue amount. You don't want too much, etc. I've got tape along the sides in case there's any spill out, minimize that. It's kind of tricky to get here. I'm just taping this last one and the top one because they don't they actually don't go in a groove. They're just in a 1/2 groove. Well, with the assembly done, it's time to start putting stuff away. Really pleased with how the project came together. Here's a few photos of the finished laptop stand. The figured roasted maple, just beautiful and really comes alive with a simple coat of stain. Well, that's it for now. Please tune in next time for more woodworking in progress.